What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel. On nootropics, on testosterone, on feeling and performing awesomely, I am your host, Ryan Michael Ballo. Thanks so much for being with me. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit the bell to get notified of all the content I'm pushing out. If you get the YouTube app on your phone and you're logged in and you have the bell hit, then it will notify you if I'm live. Just did a live stream yesterday. Some of you missed it. Or if a new video pumps out from this channel. Products support this broadcast, keeps us alive. But I'll explain them later super quickly, though. Number one, the Cortex Stack. Powerful nootropic, mental energy, verbal fluency, motivation, and more. Secondarily, the most purchased nootropic stack on the web, blowing up since we launched it. It is called Torque. 6 to 8 hours of intense, clean, stimulant energy. Get it in the description down below or at livecortex.com. Both of those are my inventions, my brainchilds, are nootropic products. All right, friends. So let's talk about I sound like a fucking Canadian. Did I just sound like I was Canadian? Let's talk about it. The most, perhaps not the most, but a very potent neurologically anti-inflammatory and otherwise anti-inflammatory nootropic that, dare I say, you should probably be taking pretty consistently, and that you could certainly get away with taking daily, and I will get to that. And that is Teacrine. Teacrine. Now, you guys have heard me talk about it here and there, whatever. Teacrine is actually in Torque. It's a very powerful compound, but it's super underrated, and not a lot of people are doing videos about it or making a huge deal out of it, and I'm not sure why, because it's very, very powerful. So let's talk about some of the anti-inflammatory effects. Then I'll talk about some other anti-inflammatory effects that are separate from the brain, and then let's talk about the cognitive aspects of it and how it can make you perform better. I'll read from a paper to start off titled Safety of Teacrine, a non-habituating, naturally occurring purine alkaloid over 8 weeks of continuous use. Okay, so in this study, by the way, there was no weird lab examination, biomarkers, nothing went wrong. There were no side effects reported. And this is 8 weeks of continuous use, where it says Teacrine, or Teacrine, is a purine alkaloid found in certain coffee species, fruits, that has anti-inflammatory, analgesic, and neurolocomotor properties. Recent preliminary research has also reported increased feelings of energy, reduced fatigue, and strong effects on improving focus, concentration, and motivation to exercise. Okay, so it generally tells us, yes, it's an anti-inflammatory compound, but then it also generally tells us some of the things that it's able to do cognitively, including improving motivation to exercise. Now, I'll just sort of step back from the studies. We'll get back to them in a second. In the gym, for me, definitely, even if I'm not going to the gym and I'm just oh, what should I do for the next 3 hours? If Teacrine's in my system, I usually want to move. Here in Pittsburgh, there's various exercise places. There's the Point Shore Park, I believe it's called, or Point State Park. And then there's the North Shore. And over there, it's just an exercise frenzy. Friendly people exercising in a frenzy. Whether it's the winter or the summer, it's just a very popular exercise spot. And when Teacrine's in my system, I usually want to go there. I usually just want to move my body and or use my brain. The same paper, so back to the papers, also says, in various rodent models, Teacrine has been shown to increase dopamine levels, decrease ROS, which is reactive oxygen species, and inflammation, decrease adenosine, and modulate other neurotransmitters. This is very, very powerful stuff, right? Because you have a compound that also increases dopamine concentrations. I mean, what more could you want from a nootropic that you're going to use to induce productivity, right? You've got the adenosine receptor blockade. That's ultimately what it's doing, which is reducing cognitive fatigue in a similar way as caffeine and theobromine and dynamine, as well as decreasing ROS and inflammation. Very, very powerful. But the question really is how, okay? So how is it executing all this kind of neurological anti-inflammatory stuff? And what does that, mean for mental performance? How does that actually translate? So the same paper, actually a different paper on Teacrine's anti-inflammatory properties, says that Teacrine shows anti-inflammation effect by interfering with the actions of inflammatory mediators such as bradykinin and histamine. Okay, for those of you that aren't familiar with how inflammatory excess levels of histamine can be, it can cause brain fog, it can slow your thinking, it can give you brain sludge, it can inhibit your memory, it can inhibit neurotransmitter synthesis, all really terrible stuff that Teacrine has the ability to mediate, right? When it's getting in there, and especially in the case of histamine, preventing histamine's ability to cause an inflammatory response in your brain, which histamine is really fucking good at, that is a powerful testament to how powerful, I just used powerful twice, to how awesome Teacrine is. Interestingly, though, so kind of moving on from the anti-inflammatory properties, but sort of staying centered to anti-inflammatory, but outside of the brain, Teacrine is also anti-arthritic. Okay, so for those of you who have arthritis, arthritis, or are prone to it, or think maybe potentially you'll get it, or I don't know, maybe your joints are hurting in the gym, maybe you should start taking Teacrine. There is a paper titled Teacrine Alleviates Chronic Inflammation by Enhancing TGFB-Mediated Shifts via TGFB-SMAD Pathway in Frun's Incomplete Adjuvant-Induced Rats. Okay, kind of sciencey stuff that you don't really need to fully understand, but conclusion. In addition, Teacrine enhanced TGFB-mediated shifts in inflammatory marker expression in joint tissue. Okay. Overall, the present study demonstrates that Teacrine exerted a superior anti-arthritic effect via the suppression of interleukin-6 and the activation of TGFB by the TGFB-SMAD pathway. Okay. Pretty interesting stuff, because, I mean, people will resort or have resorted, should resort to anything under the sun to promote, the reduction in joint inflammation, ranging from curcumin, obviously, fish oil, to like red light therapy. You should just take Teacrine. I'm not saying those other things aren't useful, but Teacrine is probably more useful in reducing joint pain and arthritic inflammation than some of those other things. On brain performance, a paper titled Teacrine from Camila Kucha and its Health Beneficial Effects concludes Teacrine acts as an adenosine receptor antagonist to play a role in the locomotor activation and fatigue reduction. Teacrine regulates brain glucose metabolism, inhibits phosphodiesterases, and restores the level of 5-HTP and dopamine to improve cognitive capacity. Now, does that mean if you have large-scale 5-HT or dopamine issues, Teacrine is going to be a magic solution? Probably not. But for regular folks that may intermittently have issues with dopamine and or serotonin, the literature is clear. Teacrine has the ability to restore adequate levels of 5-HTP and dopamine to improve cognitive capacity. Pretty fucking remarkable. Dose range in my experience would be 50 to 250 milligrams. You should start on the low end if you're going to be taking it daily or just to experiment with it, and then move your way up. For some people, 250 milligrams is totally fine and rocking and gives them focus for hours and makes them feel great. For others, it's a little too high and makes them a little jittery or unfocused because their brain's working entirely too quickly, but they are energized. Taken daily. So let's talk about this. There are a few compounds that you can take daily that I would suggest you take every day, right? Because I think most nootropics need to be cycled, especially the racetams, for effect's sake. It's not that it's not safe to be taking racetams daily, because we recently elucidated that it is, oxiracetam, aniracetam particularly. However, that standout noticeable effect that you get maybe initially with a racetam, one of the racetams, is really not going to stay long term. Your brain's going to kind of settle in on the response. You'll still have cognitive improvements, but you won't get that initial stimulatory response. So that's one of the reasons cycling is necessary. Some other compounds just need to be cycled and shouldn't be taken, very consistently. But Teacrine is one of those compounds that you can take every day. You could take it 7 days a week. You more than likely wouldn't have side effects if your dose was correct. You'd have no negative markers for most people. Again, everybody's physiology is different on laboratory examinations, indicating it's not causing some sort of raise in liver enzymes. In fact, there's a literature that supports a reduction in inflammation in hepatocytes, and you would function really well as a result of it. So taken daily, yes, it's one of the rare compounds that you can take every day and get away with it and get good streamlined brain performance where you really don't develop much of a tolerance. It's actually pretty awesome. It is one of the primary ingredients in our nootropic stack, Torque. And look, Torque is built like very strategically to be doing a lot of very powerful things, but Teacrine is a huge part of it. I mean, that's why people love the focus, the motivation, the stimulation, the drive, the energy from the Torque stack. What does it stack well with? It stacks well with a lot of things, right? Just like most of the nootropics that we have in the roster, Teacrine can stack well with, but I'm going to give you just several of them that I think it stacks the best with, and they are the following: Alcar, theobromine, theanine, citicoline, uridine, all of the racetams, Noopept, Hydra 21, and PRL 853. Now, it's also great to stack with dopaminergics or cholinergics or both, right? Because it'll help you release more dopamine, restore dopamine concentrations, but at the same time, inducing that wakefulness element of it seems to stack really well when you've got cholinergics in the mix that help you improve processing. Like a really, really good, simple stack is just a common racetam stack, call it like 500-600 milligrams on aniracetam, low dose choline source 50 to 75 milligrams, and then 50 to 250 milligrams, find your dose of Teacrine. Very, very simple, but very, very powerful. So let's recap. Teacrine is a potent anti-inflammatory nootropic compound that can be taken daily that restores dopamine and 5-HTP levels in the brain, and that's also anti-arthritic. It has neurological anti-inflammatory properties. It targets inflammatory mediators like histamine and generally induces focus, motivation, energy, stimulation, and drive. I mean, what more could you want from a singular compound? Teacrine is both underrated, amazing, not discussed enough, one of the most powerful nootropic compounds there is, and it should find its place, hopefully, moving forward in your regimen. Hanging out with you guys. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, there's a couple products that support this broadcast, but they're epic nootropic products, and they're ours, and one of them has Teacrine in it. First of them is the Cortex stack. I mean, look, just about 9 years on the market tested, shipped all around the world for almost a decade. Motivation, mental energy, verbal fluency, a complete upgrade in the way that your brain functions so that you can get more done. It's called Cortex. You can get it at livecortex.com. It is my brainchild, and it is also down in the description below. Secondarily, the Torque stack. You guys know the routine. Torque is amazing. It's got Teacrine in it, among other things. Alcar as well. Very, very strong, noticeable, clean, sustainable stimulant nootropic. I mean, who doesn't want that? Teacrine's awesome, but Torque is Teacrine on steroids. Very, very powerful nootropic stack. Get it in the description. There's a link, goes right to our website, livecortex.com. Get the most purchased nootropic stack on the web. Literally blown up since we launched it. Torque is a huge hit. We're in the process of working a deal with a major department store to sell Torque because they know it's very powerful and they actually want it. More to come on that. Lastly, if you need my help, my expertise is taking people that have subpar performance, cognitive performance mainly, and turning them into productivity beasts via a very strategic approach in identifying, well, what are their problems: focus, stimulation, motivation, energy, verbal fluency, memory, and targeting those issues with nootropics and or other compounds, and in some cases optimizing testosterone for people to feel and function awesomely. You know, I usually get the call from the business guy who like doesn't function the way that he used to 5-6 years ago and needs to be back on his game because he's going to launch another venture or do something amazing, or just wants to execute 16 hours a day. I get the call from CEOs of big companies that need to function 18 hours a day, 6 days a week, have a 40 item to-do list and need to be on top of their game. I get the call from athletes who need to perform better, when the stakes are really high in the context of being an athletic person playing in major sports, and pretty much everybody else in between, small business owners, corporate folks, everyone that wants to function awesomely. If you want to work with me, go book at livecortex.com on the consultations tab. On the menu, a new package we launched is the biohacking engineering package, which is a call with me, and then I will literally generate a document based on fact finding of your issues with targeted protocols to solve your issues or help you reach your cognitive or otherwise goals. Get all that stuff at livecortex.com. Pleasure hanging out with you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I will talk to you soon.